In an earlier section, we talked about linking and unlinking objects. In this section, we're going to talk about the same subject with a little more detail. We know that we can use the Select and Link tool to select and link objects to other objects. Click to select, drag to link. Now I have a hierarchy. My cylinder is now the parent of the cone and the sphere, and the cone is now the parent of the sphere. I can now select the sphere and unlink it from these objects by clicking on the Unlink Selection tool. Now when I move around my cylinder, the sphere is no longer part of that relationship. I can unlink the cone by selecting it and clicking on the Unlink button. Let's link these back together. Now we have our relationship back intact. Let's go to the Hierarchy panel and click on the third button, the Link Info button. The Link Info button gives you information about linking objects. We can lock the links, and we can talk about the inheritance of link information from parents to children. The Locks rollout lets you lock the motion, the rotation, and the scale for the currently selected object. We can lock the motion in all directions and then try to move it with the Move Transform tool. You can't do it. That object is locked. We can turn off the lock in any direction. So we can have it only locked in one direction. For example, it's locked in the X direction, so I can move it in the Y and the Z directions. So if I use the Move tool, I can move it in the Z and the Y, but not the X, because the X is locked. I can lock the rotation for all of the directions, all the axes. Select the Rotate Transform tool and try to rotate my cylinder, but it can't rotate. It's locked in all axes. I can turn off the lock in the Z direction and the Y direction, so it's only locked in the X direction. That means I can rotate it in the Y and Z directions. Use the Rotate Transform tool, and you can see that I can rotate in the Z, and I can rotate in the Y, but I can't rotate in the X. You can also do the same with scale. I can lock the scale in all directions. I can try to use the Scale transform. Nothing doing. It won't scale, it's locked. I can unlock the scale in the Z direction, so now it will only scale in the Z direction. I can unlock the scale in the Y direction, so it'll only scale in the Y direction. And I can unlock the scale in the X direction, and it will only scale in the X direction. So let's talk about inheritance now. When you have a hierarchy, when you do something to the parent, it gets done to the children as well. So if I move the parent, the children move. If I rotate the parent, the children rotate. If I scale the parent, the children get scaled. So let's select the cone and change the inheritance for movement, rotation, and scale. I can change the movement inheritance so that it doesn't inherit the movement of the parent object. So if I move the parent now, the cone's not going to inherit the motion of the parent. Select the cone again, turn on the move inheritance. Now I move the parent cylinder and everything moves with it. The cone receives the movement information. It inherits the movement information. I can turn off the rotate information for any axis or all axes. Rotate the parent. I can turn off the inheritance for rotation of the cone. Select the Rotation Transform tool and rotate my parent. And you can see that the cone is not inheriting the rotation, it's only inheriting the movement. Select the cone again. And now I can turn off the scale inheritance in all directions, or just one direction or two directions, whatever you want. Now when I scale my cylinder, the cone and its child, the sphere, don't inherit the scale. They inherit the motion and the rotation, but not the scale. So when you link objects with the Select and Link tool, and you go to the Hierarchy panel and the Link button, you can lock objects, and you can change the way that children inherit their parents' motion, scale, and rotation.